you're ready, let's go ahead and make our way down onto our backs. Today's our yin class. And so nice and slow, very deep into our body is the direction we're traveling today. Letting ourselves have extra time to really enjoy, really luxuriate in the poses. Today the focus is largely on the hips and the hamstrings, getting all sorts of stretches throughout class that get deeply into those areas of the body. And so these areas, the hips and the hamstrings, represent, and even just the legs in general, represent us moving forward in life. And so one of the things that makes humans different than any other species on the earth is that humans have this ability to visualize the future and then head toward that direction. Animals just live in the now, which is also extremely powerful. In fact, humans should live in the now more. But today we're visualizing, we're imagining the future. Knowing that we don't have to head back to, when things start to open up again from the COVID-19, we don't have to head back to exactly how everything was before, but visualize the future. What is the good that we can take from this time, and how can we translate that forward into a better future for everybody? So that's the question, and that's the visualization that we're going to try to add into our practice all throughout our day-to-day. And so with that to help us get started, let's begin to head up toward our first pose of the day, letting ourselves start to bring the knees into the chest. Some people cannot quite do happy baby pose. So if that's you, you're just gonna enjoy this time for the next few minutes, just inviting the knees closer and closer. If you can take happy baby, you're sliding the hands to the outsides of the feet, starting to lift the feet above the knees, and you make sure the knees go extra wide, giving lots and lots of space for the hips to just open up so deeply. And so there's different ways that we can play so that we're not stagnating ourselves the whole time. So the first thing we're absolutely welcome to do is work on gently tugging down on the feet. This helps the knees to go wider, getting closer and closer to the ground. Another easy place to play with for the next few minutes with this pose is trying to flatten the low back to the ground. Sometimes if we pull so far on the feet, the hips will start to lift. And so instead, see if you can flatten that low back all the way back down and kind of feel those new muscle groups involved when you do that. Starting to engage a little bit more of the core, engaging some of the back muscles, trying to get those to contract in order to flatten the back onto the ground again. And from here, with the feet floating up to the sky, it's almost like the direction that we normally orient ourselves is completely flipped around. The feet are floating up in the sky and our head is touching the ground. So with this inverted type of position, where we've kind of flipped ourselves upside down, what is it that was upside down about the world before? What is it that we don't want to return to? Letting ourselves first start off with what we don't want, simply as a tool to help us figure out what we do want. Oftentimes, if I ask somebody, to start creating a vision board, start dreaming of the future, like the mind completely goes blank. It's like, I don't know exactly. But if we start with what we don't want, sometimes that's helpful to help us realize what we do want. And we don't focus on constantly, we don't remain in the not wanting, otherwise we attract more of that into our life, but rather we use it as a tool so that we can figure out what we do want and really get strongly to that direction, starting to manifest in our lives a bit stronger, a bit more deeply. take about 4 more breaths right here. Deep, deep inhales. Relaxing long exhales. Take another deep inhale. With our exhale, we're slowly releasing. Our legs are kind of, with the yin, they kind of feel like they're stuck in that deep shape. It's like they don't want to move now. So start by releasing the hands. With a hand on each knee, begin to gently introduce new movements back to the knees and the hips. Maybe little circles, maybe rocking around. And gradually those movements can become just a little bit more dynamic, reminding the muscles of their full range of motion, not just that extreme where we found ourselves in one. Lots of time, lots of patience. That's also how we head toward our future, not by bull rushing forward, but rather with grace and ease and patience, just realizing one step at a time will get you there. You don't have to burn yourself out for it. So as the hips are starting to feel pretty good, take a brief moment planting the feet down to the ground, hoping the hip flexors have a moment to contract. We're going to take a bridge pose, hands rest on the earth, roll the hips up so that they're lifting clear at a high spot, the exact opposite of what they were just doing a moment ago. Another huge inhale, lifting up high. Good exhale. Let's roll all the way down. Good. We'll make our way up toward a seated place. You can roll directly up or just topple your knees off to one side, pressing our way up. We're heading here into a cobbler's pose. For me, in my body today, I feel good introducing my feet super close into the pelvis. But if that's not the best for your body today, know that you can scoot your feet quite a bit further. I'm giving you permission to listen to your body. Because if we're heading toward a future with the best possible imagination and visualization for ourselves and for others, we also need to remember to listen inward, not just external. So here, feel free to tilt forward and just gradually melt your spine into a beautiful deep position. You'll notice that some of the muscle groups here are being stretched super long, just like in the last pose. But here we're including new positions that weren't in the happy baby, such as helping the rest of the spine get a really good chance to lengthen as well. Feel free to have lots of patience. Maybe you start to drop down to hands, or maybe the elbows begin to melt closer downward. Maybe the hands just progressively walk 1 inch forward anytime that it feels that calling. And so in this way, we're not pushing things, but we're being with our edge at any given point in time. I recommend the head just relaxing heavy, but you're welcome to add little tiny neck rolls in, head going left and head going right. All of that's perfectly fine. Here that there's multiple areas from which we can connect with the future. There's our head, our brain, that can think and intellectualize a future, but also make sure we tune into the heart space. What feels the highest and the best? What feels, what type of feeling, what type of emotions can you imagine experiencing in the future? Whether or not there are actual reality at this moment, that's not quite as relevant. But can I imagine feeling more happiness, feeling more peace, experiencing more people with this deep urge to serve and to look out for the wellness of others? What type of future can you imagine feeling? Beautiful deep inhale. Then a long relaxing exhale. We gradually walk the hands back in. Posture growing tall. And once our spine is back upright, pick up your right knee. Flip your right knee gently over to the left knee. Leaving your right hand there on either knee. The left hand is behind you. Take a moment to spiral through the rest of the spine, helping to open up the vertebrae. Let the torso return. Flip this right knee all the way back down. Left knee takes its turn, flipping up and over. Our hands are in position. Continue to spiral in this direction. Torso returns. Knees pop upward, and just take another moment to do windshield wipers left, windshield wipers right. One more to each side. Good. And with that loosening, our body feels ready now to come in toward a beautiful forward fold shape. So take your way up to a standing position, the legs straight upward. We're going to gradually just melt our spine down as we're here. Occasionally, I notice people who, when they take this shape, they rock their weight clear back onto the heels. It's almost hard for me to do it because I'm so used to not doing that. But they rock their weight so far backward, and you can see their weight shooting way further backwards than it should. That's not exactly what we're going for. We have much more balance, much more control on the balls of the feet. So see if you can start rocking more of your weight toward the balls of the feet. What that does is bring the hips more directly over the legs, bringing the angle into a placement for a deeper stretch. Hands are absolutely fine on the floor. Maybe you've got a block. Maybe you're just resting hands up on the legs. Know that you don't have to be melting all the way down, even if you're just trying to find a straight spine, no matter how high up you are. If that's where the hamstring stretches the best, that's what we're looking for in our yin class. Sometimes we can be playful here, gradually melting our way down. Maybe we have some time where the hands go to the back sides of the calves, gently tugging us in toward the legs. Maybe we rest hands down, flattening them toward the ground little by little. sometimes it's fun to even step the feet onto the hands. If you do that, some of the weight naturally goes back to the heels, so you have to try to consciously bring it more balanced through the balls of the feet. So it doesn't matter which option you choose, just pick the spot where you feel a really good stretch through the backside of the legs and not too much tension in the back. If you're feeling it mostly in the back, I want you to rise up a little bit higher. So from this beautiful spot, we're taking some time, we're breathing, we're being present. This position right here is very close to like the starting position of a runner. All we'd have to do, is step 1 foot forward and we're in that lunge to be there. So this is a very strong, very powerful type of a posture in our body because it's like our legs are ready to spring into action. And so from this position of readiness, what future do you feel is closer? Some future steps are, hundreds of years away. There's Native American traditions where it's the act of responsibility is planning 7 generations in the future. So perhaps that is a good place to spend some of our time. But here at this moment, what is the more immediate changes that are welcome in our life? What can we dream and imagine could happen in the next couple of months, or maybe the next year or so? If you ever start to feel gentle shaking in the legs, know that that's absolutely okay. That just means that we lightly fatigued the muscles by bringing it into such a deep stretch. That just means that you really are working right at your edge, so that's not a bad thing at all. Sometimes I've gotten into deep stretches and I start to shake like crazy and I'm like, am I doing something wrong? I don't get it. It's okay if that happens. Once again, bring to mind something close in the future that you'd like to work toward. Spend 3 more breaths with that thought. Squatting position. You want the feet to try to be all the way flat, so usually if I walk my feet slightly in or slightly out, I can find just the right spot for that. If that's not working, you're welcome to roll up a little blanket and have the roll under the heel. Usually that is helpful. Or conversely, sitting on a block or a bolster is another way to make a really good thing. So now as we're sitting down, take a moment to see if the spine can lengthen. Feel the breath flowing deeply into the belly. listen to this intuition just a little bit more strongly so that that can be your warning, your guide. If you have more of that external focus naturally, just let your head continue to lift up long. If you're taking more of the internal focus, perhaps try to rest the center of the forehead down onto the middle fingers, letting the weight of the head push the hands down, allowing that stretch to happen through the back side of the neck. Slow your breath and continue for the next 5 deep cycles. Gently work the hands down, walking them forward until the knees begin to settle down and back to the earth. From here, take any intuitive movements that feel delicious in the body, maybe a cat-cow. Maybe wagging your hips left and right like you have a little tail, even gazing over that shoulder top to each side. Maybe barrel rolls with our torso rolling up and around. Reversing that if you're taking that one. Maybe a few huge hip circles, starting to work toward loosening that tightness. And we take an equal amount clockwise as we take counterclockwise. One more set. Whatever you're doing. Good, and here we start to head toward a pigeon pose. So this right foot steps forward. We heel toe the right foot to the left edge of the mat until we can gently drop the knee down. The back toes scoop further backward. And already we feel this new sensation on the front of the left hip. We haven't gotten into the psoas yet at all. We're finding that length as we start to drop down to elbows, hips staying completely level for us. Still, we're continuing to ask ourselves, what depth is the perfect amount for my body? If we need to make it more gentle, the toes tuck closer in to the body so it's less intense on the hip. If you ever want to go deeper, you can bring that front leg even to square, but make sure you don't sacrifice anything else, such as completely sitting onto the right hip in order to let that start to happen. We don't want to injure the knee. So as you're here, see if there's a way for your head to rest downward. So maybe some of us need to stack both fists so that you've got a little bit of height for that forehead. Sometimes we can widen the elbows, stack the palms, and set the head down that way. And some people can even go all the way to the floor, rocking the head left and right very gently. So just find the amount of height that feels good for this hip. Pigeon pose tends to be one of those poses that people either love or they hate every time it comes up, because it's either, extremely intense or it's very delicious. So notice how that's also similar to the reactions people have with anything that happens ever. Like, people don't tend to just be like, man, that's okay. Usually people, at least if you read on social media, usually people are either intensely in love with stuff and they become obsessive, or they completely hate it and they will bash it to their last dying breath. So here, let's ask ourselves, in the future that I wish to create, what range of the spectrum do I wish to fall onto? Do I wish to, completely love? Do I wish to completely hate? Do I wish to be in the middle ground? All of them are fine choices, but we can make it more of a conscious choice rather than that natural inclination toward the extremes. Breath in. Take a deep exhale. Gradually work yourself back up onto the hands. Gently lift the hips up. And let this right knee have some freedom for a moment. So maybe that right knee gets to do some circles off to that right side. Loosening up any intense areas that you may have just experienced in that posture. Maybe when you set that knee back down, you return back to any of those movements that felt good in the body, the cat-cow, or anything else. And when you feel like the second side is ready to start happening, let's step that left foot forward. Heel-toe that left foot to the right edge of the mat so that the knee can gently swivel out to the side. The back toes scoot backward. Once again, we lower down onto elbows. And we try to find a way to rest the head down. Begin to be with this side. Right here in front of you, and you had a pen, and you had this freedom to start thinking about a new future that you would write, kind of like how the founding fathers of the United States, they sat down and they thought about the future and then they wrote out a constitution. So if you could write out maybe like your constitution or your, just a document, your imaginings your I have a dream speech. What is your dream? What do you imagine? What would the best possible future be that you could ever possibly fathom? Last 3 breaths for this side. Nice and deep, nice and slow, very full. After that third one, the hands begin to find themselves planting. We start to lift the hips upward so that we can slide the knee back. And once again, perhaps we start off with a few of those nice little circles for that right knee. The left knee, loosening it up, that hip area. Bringing movement back to those deeply stretched areas. Maybe setting the knees back down. Add a few more extra movements for the rest of the hips and the spine. Okay. As we gently allow the hips to rest back to the earth, we allow the right leg to go super wide to the right. Left foot gets tucked right in. And then from here, we're going to spend a couple of minutes stretching over the right leg and then walking the hands forward through the center a couple of minutes to that direction. So first, one hand on each side of the right leg. It's not a forceful pulling in. Instead, yin is the quality of just letting it go, letting it be. To keep the shoulders square, and then just progressively let your spine relax into this stretch. So maybe we're walking the hands forward. Maybe occasionally we realize our edge isn't very deep, so we do try to straighten the low back, but then we find ourselves relaxing back down into it. From here, slowly we'll begin the journey of walking both hands through the center. until the hands end up directly in front of the pelvis, relaxing forward, maybe continuing to melt forward if there's continuing to be more space available to us. And just find ourselves relaxing in this spot for a time. Double check that these right toes are pointing directly upward. A lot of people have this tendency to tilt them forward or tilt them backward, and that's not quite as helpful for engaging the muscles that actually need the stretch, that actually need that lengthening. Start to find the hands planting down into the earth, gently walking you back in. From here, with one hand under the right knee, we pick that one up. The left hand supports the left leg as it lengthens out to the left. Start off with a posture tall already. That's much better than sacrificing it backwards. If this is your shape, you're either bending the leg so that you can start up tall or sitting on something. Now one hand goes to each side of that left leg. And we start that journey of melting down toward the left. How does this side feel compared to the right? How can we make sure as we head toward the future that we don't increase the imbalance? In other words, if the right side is always stretching deep and the left side is always tight, how can we try to equalize those? And I'm speaking physically, but I'm also speaking metaphorically. How can we bring balance to all aspects of life? For instance, economically, how can we make it so there's not such dramatic differences between one side and the other, between the rich and the poor, between the workers and the owners, different things like that. Trying to find balance, that perfect harmony. Continuing to melt further if there's more space available on this side. Ourselves back through to the center. So take your time, one hand at a time, lengthening you to that direction. And once again, what would be a helpful way to rest down? Are we working on hands resting? Maybe one or both elbows resting? Maybe the forearms starting to walk further. Just find yourselves constantly playing with the edge, whatever that means for you in this moment. Gradually work our way back up. From here, both legs come directly forward, legs nice and straight. And here we get that chance to be with both the left leg and the right leg together at the same time. Notice how maybe if one was extremely flexible and the other one was tight, bringing them right next to each other here brings them into this position where they're working for one another's good together. We're only able to tilt forward to the amount that both legs together are able to travel. And so once again, we don't start off rounded back, otherwise take those adjustments, bending the knees or sitting on something. And from there, the tall posture, we can start to tilt the spine forward. Letting the hands just rest either on the legs or on the sides. And spine continuing to melt as if it's like chocolate on a hot summer day. Just gradually releasing deeper and deeper and deeper. Beautiful inhale, a nice relaxed exhale. And begin to drop the hands down and take your time rounding the spine all the way back up. From here, we're going to roll down onto our backs, and so you can bring the feet back onto the mat if you were off to the side, and then start to roll our spine back to the ground. We take just a moment with a bridge pose, planting the feet in, hands resting to the ground. Lift our hips all the way back up to experience this moment of contraction through the back side of the legs. Take another good inhale. And then exhale, gently roll all the way back down to the ground. And from here, we'll take one last posture. This is going to be a twist off to each side. And so I'm going to give you a choice. You can either follow me and do both knees to the left and then both knees to the right, or you can just have one knee twist at a time. So that would be the right knee twisting to the left right here. So take it with the twist of your choice, setting your arms up, spreading them left and right. Beginning to let the knees pull all the way over to the left side. From here at this place, begin to feel the breath flowing through the body. Notice how deep the inhales can travel. And the exhales go even longer and slower. Using that particular breath to help remind us that the future can be as easeful as we intend it to be, as we hope it to be. And that ease is as simple as breathing right now and every moment. Yesterday I was chatting with somebody about sleep apnea, and I can't imagine that if somebody is trying to be conscious about deepening their breath and turning that into a habit all throughout the day, I can't imagine that they would have as much troubles breathing through the night as somebody who's simply unconscious about their breath 24/7. Feel yourself being more conscious, bringing this attention, this focus to this life force, this essential process we have in our bodies. And in letting this breath flow so deeply, we're helping our brain and our heart, which require that oxygen, which pump that oxygen to the rest of our body. Enjoy another huge sip of breath in. Good, relaxing exhale. And let's begin to take it onto the second side. If you're just doing one leg, you'll start to bring the left knee in so that you can twist that to the right. If you're doing both knees, you can take your time gradually letting both legs and letting all the muscles just melt their way over to the second side. And checking in with ourselves right at this moment, are we still letting this breath go consciously deep? Or have we lost it and let our minds wander? Let's return back to the breath. We've got a few more cycles of breath on this side before we brought ourselves into that balance. Take another deep sip of oxygen in. And with our exhale, the legs gently begin to return upward. Once we've got both hips back to the ground, we're going to begin to head toward our Shavasana position. Maybe you're leaving the knees up like this, letting them fall inward, feet going wide. Maybe you're lengthening the legs to a normal Shavasana. Completely your preference. This is simply our chance to let the body integrate. We took a lot of deep, long held stretches. To let the body begin to learn what to do with that new blueprint that we've provided, this new vision for the future, for our bodies, for the world, for humanity. But rather than focusing so intently on the wish, let's let all that go and simply be with the breath for the next few minutes. begin to introduce little movements back to fingers, back to toes, ankles and wrists. Starting to stretch like it's the first thing in the morning. Rolling over to one side when your body feels ready for that. Maybe another breath or two. And then you'll feel ready to rise all the way up to a comfortable seated position. Joining the hands together in front of the heart. Just see that first image of that future you're envisioning today. All pieces of it simply coming together from our restfulness. Almost like a dream, a very good dream. So with this future, with this dream to lead us onward into this wonderful weekend we have ahead of us, let's wrap up this time we got to share together with the sound of Om. Inhaling together now. Om. May we be filled with light and happiness and peace. Namaste.